Okay.
Cool. All right, you guys good? Good.
All right, so my name is Chris, and presentation on compensation and benefits, and this is the rest of our team.
Keep going.
I'm Chris Silver.
I'm Pam.
I'm Taylor.
I'm Steve.
All right, and I'll be talking about the goals of the compensation plan. All right, so when we think about compensation plans, usually first two things that come to mind, at least to my mind, are 401k and health benefits. And these are like kind of the basic things that are usually wrapped in a compensation package when you're going to a job. And I'm going to be talking about the overall goal of a compensation plan, which is really to attract the most qualified employees to work for your firm. So over the summer, I worked for Northwestern Mutual. It's an insurance and financial service industry. And so besides from like hourly wage and obviously commission from sales, we had a specific type of compensation plan for our intern group. So up here, this is a fact finder. And so part of our compensation package was we had to go out and meet with prospective clients and fill one of these out. Everyone that we filled out and brought back to our boss, we got paid $25. So it kept us motivated and really focused on going out and meeting with clients because no matter what, we got $25. So then this is World at Work, and it's a global association for human resources management professionals and business leaders focused on attracting, motivating, and retaining employees that they want to work for their firms. So they offer different certifications to HR managers to help them better understand the compensation package. So this is an example of a CCP, or a Certified Compensation Professional certificate, and basically what it is, it's someone who has training and knowledge in the employee compensation and HR issues. It's one of the certificates that World at Work offers. This is another one. This is Certified Benefits Professional, and this certificate is given to someone who understands the importance of a well-organized benefits program and its correlation to employee satisfaction. All right, continuing with the employee satisfaction, no matter how much an employee likes their job, they probably won't stay with that job if the compensation package isn't attractive or fair compared to the competitors. So having a competitive and fair compensation package really helps attract the best employees for your firm, and it equals out to a better workplace. All right, so switching over to sports, this is JD Martinez. He's a baseball player, for you guys who don't know. He's just coming off a 45 home run season, which is pretty good. And he actually just signed a deal with the Red Sox for 5-year, $110 million. And it's fully guaranteed because that's the MLB. And so he went somewhere that he thought was fair and that gave him a chance to win and that he felt most comfortable with. And then so transition, this is more kind of business side. This is the NFL. Contracts aren't fully guaranteed. So how teams structure their deals to free agents really changes the way that they attract free agents and how they could potentially like change the face of the team for the better. And then so for those of you who don't know, this is Kirk Cousins. He's probably the most prominent NFL free agent we've had in recent memory. There's basically a couple teams that are going to go after him: the Jets, the Broncos, the Vikings, and the Cardinals. And how they structure the deals, the Jets are talking fully guaranteed money for the whole contract, and how they decide with signing bonuses and whatnot are really going to decide what team he plays for. The NCAA, just like business and recruiting employees, they recruit student athletes by offering them free tuition. And so they promise like free tuition for them, and then that's their deal. And then teams that are under the NCAA on the next slide, they offer certain incentives. Like the University of Kentucky, their whole thing is that we'll get you 1 year in college, and then we'll send you right to the NBA. That's their incentive for them to get players to come and play for them. And other teams, they obviously offer different things, whether that's like money to their families or whatnot, which is obviously a scandal, but still it happens to recruit the best players to play for their team. All right, so careers. So when I'm looking for careers, I'm a senior at Rowan, I'm applying to jobs. I look at obviously the salary, the compensation package, but when it comes to me personally, I'll take a little bit off the salary to if the compensation package is great, because I think it goes further along the way when I'm working for a job than the salary. So I actually got a job offer in Philadelphia in the beginning of the year, and salary was great. The compensation package was unbelievable, but it wasn't exactly what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. But I actually almost ended up accepting the job just based off those two factors. But I didn't because, well, it wasn't exactly what I wanted to do, but it has that persuasiveness. All right, and then with a high compensation package and a high pay grade, it really keeps the morale of their employees up, which is better for the entire firm because with higher employee morale, the better the workflow system will go. And then it obviously plays a key in motivation because if they know when they come to work that they're getting paid fairly and that they're getting compensated for their job, that they're going to work harder for your firm, which in turn make the firm more money and everyone comes out happy. All right, so this is an example of a pay grade. It's another way that firms kind of help their employees know what they're getting into. So this is like a military one. So every grade you get more money. The same way for employees. Like when you get a job, you get a certain pay grade, and then when you get a promotion, you'll get more money. And then when you get raises, you'll stay in between that pay grade until and so on and so on. And then, so obviously getting more, better pay, better compensation package, it actually indirectly saves the firm money because employees are less likely to take 6 days when they're not actually sick, saving the firm money, so it's actually beneficial. Now, obviously, it also goes into play with Social Security disability claim. When firms have offered fair pay and obviously a good compensation package, they've actually seen a decrease in their disability claims, which indirectly also saves the firm money. And I think Taylor,
So I'm Taylor, and I'm going to be talking about what goes into developing a compensation package. And when you're developing a compensation package, it is important to keep in mind the company's philosophy on compensation. So a company's philosophy on compensation is how the company values their employees and how they believe that their employees should be treated for all the hard work that they do for the company. The company that I want to work for in human resources is the Disney Parks company. They have the philosophy to treat their 62,000 employees just at Walt Disney World as like one of their guests and keep the magic alive even for them. One of their benefits is all cast members receive weekly pay, and if you're a full-time cast member, you receive affordable health care, which includes medical, dental, and vision. You get vacation and sick time, retirement plans, and if you're part-time, you also get a variation of them. And then also, Disney provides costumes for all their cast members in the parks. But if you work in the offices, you obviously have to have your own. And then also they have a stock purchase program, educational opportunities that include like on e-learning and stuff like that, theme park admission to both parks in the US and some of their international discounts at hotels and restaurants, and also previews of new attractions and parks and resorts. And when you're creating a new package, it is important that you look at your current compensation package to see what can be improved. So the first two questions that you should ask is, from an employee's perspective, what is a fair wage for their work? What do they think they should be getting? But then also, are wages too high to achieve financial health for your organization? And is it going to keep everything steady? The next question to be asked is, do managers and employees know and buy into your compensation philosophy? So do they also agree with what the company is saying is their main goal for their workers, and do they think they're getting the benefit of the doubt? The next one is, does the pay scale reflect the importance of various job titles within the organization? So if you work hard for your position, are you getting the amount that you worked for, or are you still getting what the new like intern's getting? Then you should be getting more. And the next one is to try to retain your employees. Does your package want your employees to stay with your company? Does it keep them motivated? Does it want them to come to work every day? And then the next one is, are state and federal laws being met with your compensation package? Is it legal? You're not bribing them. You're also giving like minimum wage and stuff like that. And then the next one is your compensation philosophy keep in line with labor market changes, industry changes, and organizational changes? So are you keeping up with your competitors to keep your employees? Are you raising your pay scale when the market goes up and stuff like that? Once you answer all these basic questions, then you can really go in and fix up the holes that your philosophy had beforehand and to make it better for everyone. And to do this, there's some policies to keep in mind. So the first one is, are salaries higher or lower depending on which state that you are in? So on here, on the Northeast, registered nurses get more because there's more people, and then out in like the West, it's not as much. But then also you have to keep in mind the area. So my dad's a cop in Winslow, and he gets more in Winslow than someone in like Williamstown. And then there's also the pay raise. And when giving raises will be a factor if you give it to ones who have tenure or merit-based ones, or can you do a combination of both for your company? And then once those policies are fixed and stuff, there's internal and external factors. One major internal factor is the type of compensation strategy the company decides to use. There is a market compensation policy. Market plus or minus philosophy. So the market compensation is when the company pays the going rate for a particular job within the market, and they do their research and they find the right salary. The market plus is when the company determines the going rate and add a percentage to that amount. But then the market minus is when the company decides to go below the market rate. And in the book, the example was Whole Foods for market minus. Like, it saves them money for like inventory and stuff like that. And then an external factor is the economy. When the economy's bad, you cannot have as much pay. And then when the economy is good, you can like hire more people, you can do more pay raises. But when the economy is bad, there's lots of layoffs. An example of this is back to Disney. In 2001, after September 11th, tourism in America went down and Disney got hit hard. And my uncle was actually working there for right after his college program, and he got laid off, so he had to come back home. So those are factors that go into it.
Thank you. My name is Steve, and I'm going to be talking to you guys about the different types of pay and the different acts associated with pay. So we look at the first act, which was about 100 years ago, and it was the Factory Act of 1833, and it basically established laws for children who are working in factories, because back then we didn't have as many laws imposed on children who are working, young children working in factories. We then look at the Workmen's Compensation Act that basically covers individuals who were injured on a job who needed to be paid for if they were on leave or for the time that they could not work. Next, we'll look at the Fair Labor Standards Act, and that basically imposed a minimum wage for individuals who are working. We most commonly associate minimum wage with individuals who are on an hourly wage system. I'll talk about that a little bit more later. But this basically started to impose labor laws on individuals who were working on the books, technically, who were seen by the government. The next would be the Federal Unemployment Tax Act. The Federal Unemployment Tax Act covers about half of individuals who are disabled and who can't work. So those who have to be at home and they can't work, this will provide them with about half of their benefits and what they make. We then look at the Equal Pay Act, which tried to eliminate pay discrimination. We still see the gender pay gap today, but this tried to eliminate pay discrimination amongst gender, race, and sex. That basically tried to eliminate this gender pay gap. But then we look back to about 9 years ago with the Lilly Ledbetter Act of 2009. Lilly Ledbetter was a supervisor for Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company. She was awarded $3 million from a jury because she was paid less than that of her male coworkers who were at the same supervision level as her. Continuing with the gender pay gap, it seems that today women are paid about 77 cents on the dollar to males. Getting into more of the types of pay, we look at skill-based pay, and skill-based pay is where you're paid based on the amount of knowledge and skills you bring to the organization. It differs from that of a competency-based pay, in which competency-based pay is when you're paid based on your traits or characteristics that you bring to an organization. So if you're working a different job, a job that's more personable, you might be paid a little bit more or less differently than that of someone who's working a different job because you might bring more personal skills to the organization. The next type of pay would be broadbanding, and it's pretty simple. It establishes categories within the organization. So like, for example, I'm a manager at Chick-fil-A, so I make less than that of our directors who are above me, but I make more than that of our team members because I have more responsibilities. So it's where individuals are paid differently based on their rank within an organization. A variable pay system would be when an individual is paid based on the amount of work that they're doing. It's a little different from bonus plans because bonuses are when you're paid for hitting a goal set by the organization. A variable pay system is when you're paid based on the amount of work you're doing. So you can do as much work as you can and you'll be paid for that. Salary is one of the most commonly well-known types of pay. It's when you're paid a certain amount over a certain period of time. So like Dr. Casper and I were talking about before, I'm on hourly, so I'm paid based on the amount of hours I work, but Dr. Casper is on salary, so he's paid over a period of time for the amount that he's agreed on with the organization. And hourly is when you're paid a certain rate based on the amount of hours you work in an organization. Over 40 hours would be considered overtime, in which most companies will pay you time and a half. Under salary, you can't make overtime. The next would be a piecework system, and a piecework system is where you're paid based on the amount of units that are produced within an organization. So if you're looking at cars, if you're an individual who's making cars, you would be paid based on maybe the amount of parts that are going into the car, how much you produce, stuff like that. And then when we talk about cars, we can go into a different type of pay, which would be commission, in which commission salespeople are paid based on the amount of product they sell specifically. So if you look at a car salesperson, they're paid a certain amount on how many cars they're selling per month. Then we look at the next one's bonus plans. So bonus plans can be monetary benefit. They could be paid time off. It could be vacation time. Basically, it just gives the individual in the organization monetary benefit for hitting that goal or achievement within the organization. Again, it doesn't always have to be monetary. It could be paid time off, vacation, stuff like that. The next would be a profit sharing plan where organizations basically establish a number that they would want to hit. So let's say it's $1 million. They would hit $1 million, and then under a profit sharing plan, they might share the rest, the excess of that with the rest of the organization. That's kind of what it is. It's not too common now, but that's an overview of the profit sharing plan. Stock options allow individuals who work in an organization usually to purchase a piece of the organization, a stock, at a lower rate than a person just a person purchasing it at the public asking price. The individual can have slight ownership in the organization and then make money from there. The U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission regulates all of these. Again, they try and regulate the pay discrimination, the gender pay gap, the minimum wage. Minimum wage was only established when the Fair Labor Standards Act was passed. Most organizations now, if you're paid on the books, you have to be paid a certain minimum wage. I know that's a little bit different for restaurants or the different industry that you're going into. So I know I believe for New Jersey here, the minimum wage was set at $8.60. It's continually raised a couple cents. But again, we just go back and we look at the pay differences and the gender pay gap, which is a lot. It's still occurring in our organizations today that females are still being paid less than that of males. Again, looking back at the act 9 years ago, which Lily Ledbetter was awarded $3 million from a jury because she was paid differently. And then I'm going to pass it over to Pam.
My name is Pam, and I'm going to be talking about the different types of benefits and compensation. This is definitely something you want to be aware of and know about, especially when you're going to apply for a job, because it's going to be a big part in the decision in choosing that job, and they vary between organizations. So some are mandated by the government and others are voluntary. So the first thing I want to talk about is Social Security, which is a federal insurance program that provides benefits to retired people, disabled people, and unemployed people. In 1935, there was the Social Security Act, which basically requires employers to withdraw funds from workers' paychecks to pay for retirement benefits, which is essentially a payroll tax. Right now, 169 million Americans are paying Social Security taxes, and 61 million are collecting Social Security. And next is Medicare. Medicare is a federal system of health insurance for people over 65 years of age and some young people with certain disabilities. It has 4 parts to it. And the first part is going to be your hospital insurance, which covers hospice and hospital stays. The second part is your outpatient care, medical supplies, and your preventatives. Part C is Medicare Advance plans that are offered by private companies that contract with Medicare. And the last part is going to be your prescription drug coverage. Next, we're going to talk about unemployment insurance. Basically what this is, it provides some loss income for employees during involuntary unemployment. It helps workers find a new job, and it incentivizes employers to continue employment. This is also something that is required under the Social Security Act. It allows workers to have time to look for a job, and it's not optional. They can pay taxes for it. Next is workers' compensation. So basically what this is a form of insurance that provides a wage replacement and medical benefits for people who have been injured on the job. So if you get hurt on the job, you receive a percentage of pay, and there's going to be a lot of jobs that are more high risk. So obviously if you're a construction worker, your job's a lot more risky. It's more riskier for you to get hurt rather than someone that's in the office all day and just sits at their desk. So the insurance is going to be higher for a more riskier job. And next is COBRA, and it stands for Consolidated Omnibus Budget Reconciliation Act. Basically what this is, a federal law that allows you and any immediate family members to stay on an employer-sponsored health plan under certain circumstances. So basically what this is like a temporary health insurance plan. So if your spouse dies and you're on their health insurance plan, you can still get those benefits temporarily. I think it's between 18 to 36 months. And also you can get it if you're going through divorce or if you're not covered anymore as a dependent due to your age. So next is incentive pay systems. This helps a company meet objectives, and there's multiple different kinds. First is commission. So if you're a salesman and you sell cars, you'll make a percentage of pay off of the sales that you made, and some also may have a base pay with it as well. And then there's bonuses, which is basically money added to your wage when you meet a goal. And then there's profit sharing. So in publicly traded companies, this amounts to the allocation of shares amongst employees. And then we have stock options, which are people, they can earn the difference in what they paid for the stock and the actual value of the stock. And then there's team pay. So if your team meets a goal, they'll receive a reward or a bonus. And then lastly is merit pay, which is an annual increase in pay if you have a good performance. So the better performance that you have each year at your job, you can get more pay. Next is medical insurance. This usually includes hospital expenses, surgical expenses, and routine healthcare visits. Many organizations offer vision and dental care. This can also sometimes include disability insurance. There's 3 different kinds. There's fee-for-service, HMO, and PPO. Fee-for-service, you basically pay out of pocket and then you can get reimbursed for the benefit level. HMO basically has a network plan of like their own chosen like health providers that you have to go by, and if you don't, you have to pay if you go outside the network. And the difference with PPO is they allow you to see outside of the network. And then we're going to talk about 401ks, which is basically set up by an organization in which employees directly deposit money from the paycheck, and it's tax deferred until retirement. Many organizations offer to match what the employee puts in plan by percentage. And sometimes if you leave your job, it'll stay with you. And then the best for last, pay time off. So I would think that most jobs offer this. So you can get paid, you will be paid for certain holidays like Thanksgiving and Christmas, New Year's Day. And there's also paid sick leave, and average in the United States is 8.4. And then for paid vacations, the amount of vacation days that you have vary depending on the amount of time of service that you spent at the job. So if you were there a year, you get 9 days, 5 years, 14 days vacation, and 10 years, 17 days vacation. And basically on a final note, knowing that the total compensation package of the company that you're going to be working for is really important when it comes like your decision. It's definitely something that you're going to want to ask in the interview for your job.
So I'm Chris. I'm going to be covering the cases and problems. Basically, it's just going to be an overall summary of what these guys have already taught you all about. I apologize for the fluctuating volume in my voice throughout the presentation. So basically, the first thing we'll be going over is compensation packages. They kind of vary company to company. Basically, compensation packages are the sum of direct and indirect benefits. They're pretty customizable depending on what job you have. You can talk to HR and kind of customize it to your own preferences. It's really important in any business, small or large. You want to keep your employees happy. It's really important that they get feedback from all of their employees as they come and go to what makes them a better company, compensating properly, and as well as meeting all the legal requirements. It's really important, again, the goal is to attract people to work for you as well as retain all of your employees as they work there. Like this says, people tend to work harder if they think they're gonna get paid fairly for what they're doing. So going into that is pay systems. There's several types. A lot of companies have different types of pay levels for different types of positions that they just have gathered throughout their time. Some have going rates, which is basically evaluating the rates that are a part of different jobs throughout the industry. And then theories are basically people are going to evaluate how they believe they should be paid, and they will work towards that. Equity theory is you're going to evaluate based on what other people in your company are paid. This is my sister actually has the opportunity to work with dolphins, and I got to play with them. But dolphins are a lot like people. Basically, the way they train them is if they do something favorable, like if they jump out of the water, they'll give a favorable kind of reward to them, fish or whatever. Actually don't have any pictures of my sister, so this is stock images. Basically, they want to keep the dolphins safe and happy. They want to provide for them, make sure they're in a good environment, and compensate them fairly to what they're doing so that the Dolphins will want to be there. Next is laws. There's equal opportunity, which means there's no discrimination in the workplace. There's the fair labor, which sets the minimum wage, the child labor laws and such. And then there's the Federal Unemployment Act. There's also COBRA, which Pam talked about. It's really important to know these laws for yourself. A lot of companies will actually have a list of certain laws in some place at your work. At my job, it's more or less a joke in our office because most of them are not met, but going on it is important to recognize all of these so that you're fairly compensated. Next is medical benefits. Basically, people want to feel safe in their job. They want their family to be safe, and the medical benefits kind of provide that. Like Pam said, there's dental and for your children. And then next after that would be workers' compensation. Basically, it's wage replacements for when you can't be on the job, vocational rehabilitation. There's other benefits. Again, it's just keeping all your employees feeling safe. And there are some different views on it. There's smaller injuries, which you would have to then go and talk to your HR rep, and you'd be able to work it out in a greater sense because not exactly everything is covered under workers' compensation. Additional benefits are like pension, social security, things like that. Again, you want your employees to feel safe while they're working. I know as a young child, I feel like I'll be young forever, but as my mom tells me, it sneaks up on you, and you really want to be prepared for life after you're done working. 401k plans. My mom has the same thing. Her company matches up to a certain degree for 401k, so it's really important to keep on top of that so that you're safe and secure going on in life. You can't work forever, unfortunately. And then there is profit sharing. There's different thoughts in profit sharing. When there's higher ups, it can benefit them because they're going to be making a large portion of their salary off of it. But being the same case, a lot of people lower on the scale don't have much of a hand in the pot, and a lot of the things could be directly from the higher ups and how much they're going to get paid. Team goals, this is where I work now, Play It Again Sports. We have a lot of different team goals. Some strengths are it kind of motivates everyone to go out and do the same job, move stock. Some of the weaknesses are that there are some expectations that necessarily don't fall on us, where we have a slow month or so and we don't meet our team goals. Commission, if anyone wants to buy a stand-up dummy, I Play It Again, it's like $600. I'll make $100 and I'll bring you all pizza in here if somebody comes and buys it. So that'd be cool. Basically, lastly, communication's the name of the game. You want to stay on top of everything. I know at my old job, communication was a little low. Morale was really low because of it. People felt they weren't heard. Changes weren't being made. From an employee standpoint, it was kind of just increasing profitability. And communication is really respected from an employer to an employee. You're going to get your needs met better if you communicate properly, and basically overall morale will go out throughout the company, which usually leads to profits. That's it.
Cost of living, differences in salary. I think this is important. Taylor brought it up. So sometimes salaries can be based on the particular cost of living in an area. So what's a high cost of living area? Yeah, the city of New York, San Francisco, I think is the most expensive place to live. I saw this comedian the other day. He says, I pay $4,000 a month for my 200 square foot apartment, and so do my 8 other roommates for the same apartment, right? It was just really funny. Even within townships, different police units, they may be different based on if it's in the city or out of the city or different contracts. And I say this to suggest that if you can get a national salary in a low cost of living area, in real terms, you're going to be making a lot more money. So, what jobs pay on a national scale? Yeah. Government jobs typically do. But let's say you're an engineer, a software engineer. Let's pretend that that is a marshmallow version of the United States. That's Mexico. That's Canada. This is New York City. This is Chicago. This is California. Okay, so if I find a job, these markers don't even last a class period. Say I find a job that pays $100,000, and we recruit it on a national basis, so we don't give bonuses or differences based on the area in which you live, for example. And a lot of the jobs kind of at this level, maybe a software engineer don't. So if you can avoid these high cost of living areas and maybe get the job in Iowa or someplace like that, in real terms, they can make you 3, 4, 5 times the amount of money that you would if you're in some of these larger cities. When we tried to put people at Chevron in San Francisco, and when Citibank tried to move me to New York City, there was almost no way to equate the wages. It's not just a little bit of a difference. It's a monstrous difference. $100,000 in San Antonio is equivalent to like $1 million in New York City, and then you still have to commute 3 hours. There's just almost no way to make up that difference. Just food for thought, I guess. There are cost of living indexes out there. So if you get a job offer in Cherry Hill or Orlando or some other places, you can actually go, have you guys seen those? You can go in. I don't have one off the top of my head. Oh, no, hit the wrong button. That button. That button. That button. Oh, I forgot to turn that off.